I am honored to have back with me as our first guest someone who's a very dear friend and someone who is an incredible freedom fighter on the front line. And in fact, he is not a favorite amongst the deep state. He is a huge favorite of every person that focuses on freedom. Joe Bastardi is a graduate of the great Penn State University. He obtained his degree in meteorology. He is the chief forecaster at the best weather site on the planet. I encourage you to go there. They also have a subscription service. I encourage you to subscribe. Weatherbell.com. Weatherbell.com. Joe is well known for his accuracy in forecasting weather patterns, and Joe has also been an outspoken expert, underline the word expert, on climate change. It's my honor to welcome back my friend, Joe Bastardi. Joe, welcome back to the Operation Freedom platform.
Well, it's great to be back, Dr. Dave, and Dr. Dave helps me out in more ways than just letting me on every several weeks. He advises me on nutrition, and his advice has been invaluable, put it that way. So, especially what I'm up to with that.
Well, Joe, in addition to being a phenomenal forecaster and a student and actually professor of the weather, you work out. You enter in competitions, and in fact, you're chalking up some major wins, much like you did in college in your undefeated wrestling career at a certain weight class.
Stop that. I've competed 103 times in bodybuilding. I only competed 5 times in college. I tell everybody I was unbeaten at 167 because I was 1-0. And I'm the greatest Penn State wrestler ever to grow up east of the Garden State Parkway and south of the Expressway, which I think gives me a 32-mile square, 32 square miles where I can say I was number one. And certainly in Village Drive South in Summers Point, there was no one on my road that could beat me. So, as far as that goes. But, it's funny because Dave got me in touch with some of the people that he works with, and I was on a Zoom call with him the other day and instantly saw exactly what they were saying. And, if you ever get a chance, you folks want to stay healthy and understand ways to keep yourself in shape, even as you grow older. God's best days are the days in front of you if you have a lot of faith. And part of it is using the instruments that we get. And one of the instruments are the nutrition, and Dr. Dave knows his stuff about that. So anyway, whatever.
Well, Joe, you recently authored a book, Weaponization of the Weather, that has really become a bestseller. It's near the top of the charts, isn't it, in Amazon?
Well, it was
Educate
for a while.
our listeners on the book.
It's fallen off quite a bit now, but you need. It's kind of weird because my buddy Mark Morano has a great book out. It's called Green Fraud. And I tell people, it's like I felt like John the Baptist yelling. I know we're in the holy season and stuff like that. I'm figuratively saying stuff that he then backs up in green fraud with his book. And the only thing I can tell you is, we're two different animals. Mark is a political guy. He's a policy guy. I'm just weather, and more weather. And my biggest strength is, I will tell people right off the bat, you show me a storm, I'll show you something worse and back it up. And I do that quite often. One of the big mistakes we've made in combating this thing, and it's on top of us now. I mean, this $3 trillion, what's going to happen now with this $3 trillion plan. It's on top of us. Was we did not take seriously where the real battleground was. There are a lot of wonderful people on my side of the issue, and even some on the other side of the issue that are really into the science behind this. And they fight on the science, but they don't understand this is not about science, not about climate, not about weather. That was just something to distract people while this was all going on. What you're seeing now was a deception. And where I come from, deception's evil. And a tool it's a spiritual tool that's used by evil things. But that's where I come from. You may not believe that. We get focused on all these battles that are going on and don't understand. If you stand back, it's just like the weather, and look at the big pattern. There's actually something bigger going on. But getting back to this whole situation here, I have observed that a cottage industry developed among scientists arguing with each other and all this other stuff going on. And, back in 2015, I guess it was 2015, Gina McCarthy just let the cat out of the bag. She was the director of the EPA, and I was watching her Senate testimony, and I could not believe she actually said what she said. She literally told people, well, this isn't about climate, because we're only going to save 0.01 C, and it's about setting an example for the rest of the world. And I thought, she can't mean that she couldn't have said that, because any serious person in this debate, I don't care what side you're on, would realize, aha, it's not about climate, it's not about science, it's about another agenda. But it just went right by the media, like most of the other stuff goes right by the media, and they don't really care. And what's crazy to me is I can't figure out why they don't care about the truth. What the heck are you going to do if there's just, how many stations do you think they're going to be out there, and how many opinions is going to be if only one opinion is allowed? It's crazy to me what I see going on. So it's a phony war. It's fought by phony warriors. The book is a satire. By that I mean the cover is a satire, not the book. It's a satire of guys that think somehow or the other they're going to save the world and save the planet, and they're involved in some war. And, my daughter once said to me, and my daughter is only 21, and she's very, very smart. And she said, Dad, a lot of these people are getting involved in these issues because they know deep down inside that things they're meant to do, they're not really succeeding at, so they turn to something else. And you see that. You got this whole genre of people. Yeah, I'm a warrior. I'm out there fighting. And yet, what happens is, you ever talk to someone that fought in Afghanistan or Vietnam or charged the beach in Normandy like my wrestling coach? Are you kidding me? There's no comparison to that. And plus, the other thing, like I said before, the missive is not about saving the planet, folks. It really isn't. It's completely has to do with other things that are going on, and you see it at COVID. I don't care what it is. You see the linkage with it. In fact, I wrote 2 chapters in the book that COVID was basically a dress rehearsal for the whole climate change, and now you're seeing people see that. So that book was written last year. It came out in September, but you got to write books a little bit before.
Well, Joe, just this week, Fauci, and we've kind of dissected that fellow. In the past, Fauci and Chuck Todd on NBC's Sunday show, Meet the Press, say more, this is what they said: more pandemics are coming because of climate change. Hold on, wait.
So wrong.
They
that because
declared that more pandemics are on the way because of climate change.
Well, first of all, this is inherently dumb, and I'll tell you why. First, as you know, viruses don't do as well when it's warm. Right? Your doctor, isn't that correct?
Joe, early in this process, about a year ago, you sent me some analysis through the University of Alabama, Birmingham, remember? And it showed just that.
Yeah, well, viruses do not do as well when it's warm. And and we all understand. In fact, they would just tell me that. The biggest kept secret, I have to go to this one gym because it's got a tanning booth in it, and I have to tan. And tanning, short bursts of UV is good for testosterone production, along with, sitting in the sauna for 15 minutes, and certain things that elevate core temperatures are good for that. And I'm always looking for natural ways to do it, since I don't go I'm afraid of needles for the first place, but I don't go taking any steroids. So I'm always looking for stuff like that, but it also helps destroy viruses. And I'm always telling people front desk, hey, don't tell anybody, that this actually helps destroy viruses when you get that type of thing going on. But there's a reason why you see different types of viruses in different places. Also, the immune system, and Dave and I were actually talking about that when you get cold, all right, for instance, when you drink, you lower your core temperature, you start slowing down your body, and you compromise your immune system. So you don't want to have those things happen. So that's why cold kills more than heat in the first place. But that's the first thing. The second thing is, folks, there's 7.6 billion people on the planet. Guess what? More people are dying today than have ever died before. What I mean, that just of course, if there's a bigger population pool, there's more of a chance of these things starting to occur. It's just like if you're going to put buildings up in Miami Beach, which is a man-made sandbar, what do you think is going to happen? I feel like Sam Kinison. Remember, I don't know if you watch the old Sam. Remember Sam Kinison? You're living in a desert. You move, right? You don't have any food because you live in a place where you can't grow food, okay? I'm not making fun of people. By the way, the climate refugee stuff, it's hard to believe. It makes my head spin. The agricultural production of Nicaragua, Guatemala, and El Salvador has all skyrocketed in the last 20 years, all right? It's called adapting. It's a little bit below normal as far as precipitation goes, and the good side of that is up until this year, there weren't hurricanes hitting Central America. We went 13 years between the last major hurricane, which is the longest we've ever gone since 1950. So 2 major hurricanes hit in 1 week. It was like a double shot between Pelosi saying climate change because of the drought is causing the migrants to come north, and then bang, Vox turns around and writes an article. Well, it's the hurricanes that did it. And when you look at where those hurricanes hit, they basically hit in the areas on the Nicaraguan coast that are about the least populated you could get. Now, I'm not downplaying the strength of those 2 hurricanes that went in, but on the other hand, it was supposed to be a big season. I'm sure Vox is not subscribing to Weather Bell, because if they did, they would have known beforehand what was going to happen this past year, because that's what we do. And folks, the problem is nobody bothers looking. They simply regurgitate what they say. And then when you bring things up, I had a guy call me a fringe meteorologist. The reason this all got going was
who made that? Who made that statement? And what was their background?
That was out of some energy. I don't know, the environmental energy policy play. I didn't realize. I thought it was someone else I was talking to. I thought I recognized the number, but it wasn't. And 3 or 4 questions in, I realized, I don't talk to people unless I know them. Okay, and I also don't like doing interviews unless they're live, and you cannot cut what I'm going to say. All right, because I know how that little game works too. So what happened was I talked to this guy for 25 minutes. Nicest guy. I was as nice as possible to him. He actually said to me, "You're nothing like what everybody tells me." All right, and I actually had the people that I was in the Bill Nye movie, and they said the same thing. They said, "We expected a totally different person over here, right?" And I said, well, every morning's like Christmas to me. God gave me this gift. I get to get up and work at what I want to do. So what happened, I was amazed at what he wrote. I honestly was. I was telling him how much I love solar and wind power, strictly from the idea that it is a supplement to what we have. I'm an all of the above man. That if you really wanted to get rid of this problem, you would shake off the Jane Fonda China syndrome mentality this country has and go to nuclear power. You would go crazy planting trees across the country, right? And you'd also get carbon capture involved. There's a way to do this that's very economical and probably beneficial, all right? But that's not what's going on here. And when I was reading what he wrote, I was just like, I just can't even believe it, right? And I didn't really mean to do the interview, but once I start talking to somebody, I'm a nice guy about it, and I figure, well, maybe the guy will see it. But something, the way it is today, if you've got an agenda and you've got someone paying you to do something, that's the other thing. Everybody thinks I'm being paid by the oil companies. I'm being paid by oil companies the same way wind and solar companies pay me. They pay me to forecast the weather, right? There are still some companies out there that actually give a darn about the bottom line rather than the ideological line. And so I don't care. Dave, if you told me, Joe, I got a company that says that eating Cheetos and snapping your fingers will get rid of the energy problem. I said, Dave, I don't care if it does or doesn't. You need a weather forecast. I'll give you the weather forecast for that. And you know, that kind of mentality. I'm 65, folks. I was brought up a certain way. That okay, you can disagree on this issue, but you know, if there's a common ground, find the common ground and do it. But I'll tell you what, it's bad. Morano's book, Mark. I guess it was the Daily Cost. The Daily Cost call for its banning, and I believe they lumped me in there with it. I mean, you know, it's just getting that way. You know?
Nothing. Isn't it interesting how they think it's environmentally friendly to burn books?
Well, I don't think they want to burn it. They just want to ban it. So, you know, I don't know what, on Amazon, they want to, Amazon says this and that, and they're trying to fight the climate war. What, God, you know, and here's what happens. There are good scientists on the other side of the issue. I read everything Michael Mann has ever written, and guess what? There is a lot of good research in what he does. And I've said this before, and people on my side start hating me for saying this. If I just looked at what Dr. Mann looked at and had his kind of focus, I'd believe it too. I would be like, this is what's going on. But you got it, folks, when you're dealing with a majestic and infinite system by an almighty creator, like I believe, you got to be the dumbest man in the room. You got to realize you got to look at everything. And you can't just focus on what you know and you believe. You want to know something? If you just know what you know, you're not going to get any smarter. It's when you find out what you don't know. And I believe the Apostle Paul said that those who think they know what they know don't yet know what they ought to know. And that's how the atmosphere works, believe me, because that's why you see crazy things like the month of February turn so brutally cold. And go take a look at what the February forecast was from official sources 10 days before. Right? So that's what goes on. It's funny to watch.
So, Joe, with the book Weaponization of the Weather, where can folks obtain it?
Amazon.com. It's on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble. And you know what? It's not a hard read.
No.
It's only 110 pages. And I got to tell you something. And I read the Climate Chronicles. I've reread my book. I thought the Climate Chronicles was pretty good. But the more I read this book, every once in a while, folks, you do something in your life where you say, you know something, that was pretty good. And it is and I think that you'll see the examples right out front. You'll see a person that also attaches a link to the spirituality of this situation, because that's who I am, okay? And I'm not going to sit here and worry about, this person doesn't like me because I talked about God or something like that. Hey, you want to know something? You believe what you want to believe. That's great with me. I won't ever stop or try to convince someone the other way. And I offer a solution. And here's the other thing that's interesting. You're going to notice in the acknowledgments that I acknowledge people on the other side of the issue, because I don't demonize every single person. The people I have angst over are people who sit there and steal something for a completely different purpose, which is what you're seeing in the political, some of these celebrities that are getting on board. They're only doing it because they're doing it for a completely different thing. It's completely different from what you see, the good, solid research. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of research on the other side of the issue that's been invaluable to me. It has to do with just thinking about